Hello, my name is Cameron Sabat, and this is Cutting to the Case. And today we're joined by Dr. Gavin Armstrong, PhD, founder and CEO of Lucky Iron Life, a social enterprise combating global iron deficiency through award-winning health innovation. He's been honored with some of the world's most prestigious accolades, including a Fulbright scholarships, Forbes 30 Under 30 in social entrepreneurship, the Muhammad Ali Humanitarian Award, EY Canada's Social Entrepreneur of the Year, and the William J. Clinton Award for International Anti-Hunger Work. Under his leadership, Lucky Iron Fish has earned multiple Cannes Lion, Grand Prix, and Clio Design Awards, and Armstrong has been recognized as one of Town and Country's 50 philanthropists changing the world, Real Leaders' Top 100 Visionary Leaders, and the Globe and Mail's Top 50 Changemakers. Thank you so much for joining our podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I wanted to start out with your origin story, your early motivation. What moments in your early life pushed you toward wanting to solve global health and hunger issues? And how did that ultimately lead into your PhD work and founding Lucky Iron Fish, Lucky Iron Life?
Yeah, so my story starts out in high school, and it doesn't start off great. I actually didn't. I had a really terrible experience growing up. I was really mercilessly bullied and treated quite poorly by fellow students, and it really pushed me into feeling quite worthless. And to try and add value to my life, I thought that I should find a way to make money because money equaled worth. So I actually went to university into finance, wanting to be a banker because I just, I saw bankers on Wall Street, Bay Street. They drove nice cars, had nice suits, and I thought that would be a way to try and, make up for this feeling of loss that I had. The challenge was I hated it. I hated finance. I hated the courses I was taking, and I was actually failing in university, and I was on the verge of being kicked out. But then I took a field course. I took a chance course that brought me outside of North America. It was my first time leaving North America. And I went to Botswana in Southern Africa. And this trip really changed my life. It was a phenomenal experience where I met great people and I got to see such rich culture and wonderful wildlife. But I also saw like poverty and need up close. I couldn't just change the channel. And on my flight back from that trip, I realized I was on such a selfish trajectory to prove, bullies wrong, who I'm probably never going to see again when this type of need exists in the world. And so I really shifted my focus into hunger and malnutrition. I switched my degree into marketing, but with a focus on corporate social responsibility and looking at how companies can have an impact in solving hunger issues. And through various volunteer opportunities, I actually did some volunteer work in the Dadaab refugee camp in northern Kenya.
Mhm.
And at the time, the camp was built for 70,000 people. 700,000 people were there, and it was just such devastation. And it was at that camp where I learned about the concept of hidden hunger or malnutrition. And
Mhm.
at the time, about 800 million people were going to bed hungry, but about 3 billion people were going to bed malnourished. And all of the attention was on the hunger component, and there wasn't really any focus on the malnourishment part. And I learned that the largest form of hidden hunger was iron deficiency. So I went back to university and I wanted to do a PhD on something around iron deficiency and iron deficiency anemia. And so I learned about research that was being done in Cambodia on cooking with cast iron to fortify meals and try and create a solution. So I ended up very randomly moving to Phnom Penh in Cambodia, doing a PhD on the concept, which is now the lucky iron fish, which is this tool that when you boil cast iron for 10 minutes, it will release iron into the food and will be a solution for iron deficiency. So, learning about that, I actually helped develop the product that we sell now, which is the Lucky Iron Fish. And I thought it would be a research project just for my PhD, but after seeing the results, decided to commercialize it. And that was in 2012. And so we've been an international social business ever since.
Wow, what an inspiring story. And, how did you balance the rigors of that academic research, developing a clinically valid solution with the messiness of launching and scaling a social enterprise? And what were the trade-offs?
Yeah, it was really an interesting process. I wanted to do, I still had business as a passion. And so I wanted to do the clinical elements of the degree to focus on the efficacy of the product and demonstrate that it worked and that it was safe. But at the same time, I wanted to create a social business and a social business plan and find ways to create like a sustainable model for getting the product to market. So I sort of did like my thesis is separated into two halves. There's a science component and then there's a business component. And so it sort of was creating this business and then doing research on my own company while at the same time running clinical trials. So it was quite messy, as you say, but I was really interesting, and I really loved doing it that way. And we were able to scale the work that we were doing and raise grant dollars to support the research, while at the same time try and figure out how to build this business. And back then, social businesses were still relatively new. It wasn't as common phrase as it is now. So it was sort of an interesting way to be on the ground floor of this movement. And that came with some trade-offs. When we did the research and the data was positive, we had the clinical trials to show that it worked. When I would go talk to the nutrition community, there was often some pushback saying, "Well, you're commercializing this. Like you have a bias. You want these results to be effective," which is, I mean, I understand the perception of bias, but at the same time, it's peer review data. It was being done through a university, so it wasn't like we had the ability to manipulate it. But instantly, there was that perception of conflict that we had to navigate. So
Mhm.
moving forward, we actually started raising, or I started raising grant dollars, but giving it to independent researchers and having them do the research and us not being involved anymore to try and eliminate that perception. So it was a really unique way of doing it, but I wouldn't have changed it in any way.
Absolutely. And can you maybe share a failure or misstep, across product strategy or partnership that felt serious at the time that you were developing this product and navigating all these things, but turned out to teach you something really important?
Yeah, well, I mean, there are lots of missteps, lots of failures for sure, but failures are an opportunity to learn and to grow. I think coming back to that like concept around the research, I was still relatively new to this space, and when we had three clinical trials in Cambodia that showed that it worked, I
Mhm.
thought that was enough. And so I was going around to all sorts of different events and conferences and international gatherings saying, we have this incredible, effective solution. This is the best solution. This is going to change the world. And there was the nutrition community saying like three clinical trials in one country is nowhere near enough what you need to be making the claims that you're making. So I think if I had been a bit more humble and understood the needs and what we needed to collect to be able to make such grand claims, that I would have probably not rubbed some people the wrong way early on. The product had a great story, so it had a lot of great media attention at the time. But then you have me saying that it's going to change the world with just three trials in one country. And so I learned the hard way that you need to take your time. You need to collect a lot more evidence. It needs to be diverse evidence from different countries, different communities, being done independently to try and reduce that perception of conflict. And what's great is now, like over 10 years later, we do have the evidence. We have over 18 clinical trials independently done, all with the same data. So the thing I was saying before was still true, but now I have the evidence to back it up. So I just learned to kind of take my time and back up what I was saying.
Yes, yes. And these social enterprises often walk a tightrope between impact mission and financial viability. How have you designed your business model through sales donations, impact funding, and NGO partnerships to be both sustainable and mission driven?
Yeah, there's this perception, I think, that social enterprises are still philanthropic in nature. And
Mhm.
I really push back on that. It's that we can do well and do good at the same time.
Mhm.
So I believe in profit with purpose.
Mhm.
So our products are changing lives. It's a health product. If you have iron deficiency, it impacts your quality of life. And iron deficiency doesn't discriminate. Like it can impact anybody. It predominantly impacts women and children. And so we have something that can help, and it helps in a natural, effective, and sustainable way. But it's not just the product that's helping people. It's how we do business. We try and embed impact throughout our supply chain. So we are a registered B Corp or a benefit corporation. So our production methods, our hiring practices, our governance processes, the paper on our printer, the packaging, everything we do, we try and have an impact lens to it. And we set targets for ourselves. We set impact targets. We set financial targets as well. We have investors. We have some more traditional investors who want to see that return. Then we have impact investors who are really focused on the impact KPIs. And so we are, as you said, walking that tightrope between doing both. But I believe that's our North Star. It's our guiding principle. And so it's why we exist, and it's why everyone's so motivated within the company to do this. And so some of the things that we do is we have an impact fund. So we take a portion of every sale and you put it towards donating units for free to families in need around the world. We sell our product not just on e-commerce globally, but also in large volume to aid organizations. Groups like CARE International, World Vision, Action Against Hunger, they'll purchase in large quantities and then distribute to communities. And so we're really trying to get the product to vulnerable populations that need it both, whether that's through sales, subsidized sales, or donations.
Mhm. Absolutely. And what's the big dream for, Lucky Iron Life in the next decade? Are there new product lines, new health challenges, new geographies or R&D ideas you're exploring?
Yeah, a few years ago, the company was actually called Lucky Iron Fish. It was named after the core product, the Lucky Iron Fish. But we decided to rebrand to Lucky Iron Life because we are introducing new products that are away from the fish. I can talk about the shape in a second, but we have a Lucky Iron Leaf, so a different shape of the product. So that within itself was different. But we also have a new product coming out called Lucky Iron Daily, which is an iron fortified powder that can be used in a glass of water or in your smoothies. And this is a way of getting the same type of iron from the fish in a daily consumable form, which can also be used for commercial cooking, so large volume cooking. So when you think about school meal programs, for example, in countries like India that have one of the largest school meal programs in the world, they're looking at ways to fortify these meals with iron. And they're cooking in pots that do 20,000 meals at a time. So that would
Wow.
be a lot of iron fish in those pots if you're trying to fortify it. So we've developed this powder, and the powder would do that. But really, it's my dream for Lucky Iron Life to be the leader in all things iron deficiency. When you think about solutions for the massive problem of iron deficiency, I want you to think of Lucky Iron Life.
That's incredible. And looking back as someone honored in Forbes 30 under 30, what advice would you give to young people, especially in science, health, entrepreneurship, who want to build solutions to big social problems? Do you have any mindset shifts or habits or things you wish you'd known earlier?
Well, it can definitely feel incredibly daunting when you look at the problems that the world is facing right now. And when you look at the UN Sustainable Development Goals, we're off track to achieving some of them for significant reasons. I mean, the COVID-19 pandemic set a lot of this back. And so I know it can feel disheartening or daunting to try and come up with solutions to solve them, but it is possible. We are making progress. And just because the problem is complex doesn't mean the solution needs to be. The solution can be something as simple as putting an iron fish into your cooking pot. It was something that I've heard over the past decade is, oh, that's so easy. Why didn't I think of that? And that's an interesting thought, but it's yes, sometimes the best solutions are the easiest. And so don't get bogged down with the size and scale of the problem. If you believe you have a solution that can impact lives, make sure you find a way to get it out there because we need it.
Yes. And then as you've expanded across this into many different countries, what have been the biggest surprises or friction points, regulatory, logistical, supply chain, consumer education that you didn't expect when you started?
Yeah, I mean, all of those pieces have been interesting learnings. So I'm able to talk about the shape of the product for a second because that is an interesting element. So when we started the research project, it was an iron disc. And though that was scientifically effective, putting an iron disc into a boiling pot of water, women in Cambodia said that looks like a piece of garbage from the side of the road. I don't want to cook with that. And it didn't work. But instead of trying to force them to put a disc into the pot, we listened and did some research and discovered that the symbol of a fish is a symbol of luck in Cambodian culture. So by shaping the disc like a fish, women wanted to put it in their cooking pot because they thought it would bring luck to their household. And then everyone started using it. And then when they started feeling healthier, they would say, oh, it's the luck of the fish. This is why I don't have headaches anymore. It's why I'm not dizzy anymore. And so that's where the name Lucky Iron Fish came from.
Wow.
Then we put a Cambodian word on the fish that said it was for good. So people would refer to it as the good fish. But then as we started scaling internationally, fish have a lot of prominence in different religions and cultures. You eat fish and our fish looks cute. So we thought it would be okay to have that shape. But as we went into different countries, some people thought the Cambodian word was a snake, and snake are not great and unlucky in many cultures. So we had to take that off. So we decided to brand the fish with the maple leaf. So it would be known as sort of the Canadian health innovation. They took that idea from the Canada arm up in space. It's like, well, you have the Canada arm in space and you have the Canada fish in pots around the world. But then we would go into communities where they don't eat fish. And so in like India, for example, with a lot of vegetarians, they were very resistant to put a fish in their pot because they thought it had fish product in it. And so decided to develop a leaf based on the tulsi leaf, which is a leaf that has health properties in the area. So now we have the lucky iron fish and the lucky iron leaf, but then we still have heard other challenges with the product. So some communities don't use it when it's raining because they think it'll attract lightning to their household. And there's just all sorts of different reasons why different cultures may not want to use the product. And so our approach has been when we go into a new community, we partner with a local NGO and we just listen. Like we bring the product and we understand what the needs are, we understand what the diet is, we understand what is commonly consumed, and how we can integrate our product into that community. And if there's any resistance, we try and figure out if there's a way around it, whether it's through education or through redesign. But we don't take the approach of, well, we know better than you, so use our product because this is going to help you. That's not going to work. You
Yeah.
have to listen and adapt to what's going to be culturally sensitive to that community. And so it's been those interesting learning points that have been, quite an experience to say the least.
That's an incredible story. I mean, just the imagery of it all. I mean, back at UPenn, I studied business and religion, and I
Mm.
did a lot of like cultural iconography and the intersection between that and business as well. And I then did a master's degree in religion. So that's like a lot of what I studied was iconography and how it varies from place to place. I wanted to share something with you actually. I interview and meet with a lot of ambassadors. That's the ambassador of Cambodia. Oh, it's going to block it out. But yeah, I'd love to share this meeting with him
Yeah,
eventually.
please. Yeah,
When
I
it
lived
goes.
there. I lived there for 4 years. It was some of the best years of my life. Well, it was such an adventure, and I love going back there. It's a beautiful country.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, I I wanted to kind of leave with a kind of last question that we can kind of tailor toward the audience. So, what a lot of medical students that I know, especially very ambitious medical students at like Stanford and Harvard, they want something larger than just their clinical footprint when they go out into the world. They're thinking global health. They're thinking a lot of the same lines of social entrepreneurship that you've done. And I was wondering if you could give them a personal piece of advice. You're no longer talking to me, you're talking to our audience now.
Well, the world needs positive impact. We need solutions to solve these massive, complex, and daunting challenges that are really, having a detrimental impact around the world. I think that whether you want to do it through social business or through research, through academia, like we just need ideas. And so don't hold back. And the best way to have an impact, if you can improve the lives of 1 billion people, like that's a legacy.
Mhm.
And so it's trying to find massive scalable solutions. They can be simple, they can be complex, but there's no shortage of need for ideas. And so it's just get your idea out there, find a way to have that impact. Find collaborators who can help you do that. That don't try and do it alone. I could not have done this alone. It's my team who got me here. But it's just we need ideas, and so like please help get them out there.
What an inspiring story. And I'm so grateful to have had you on this podcast. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure our audience is appreciative as well. Thank you.
Oh, it's been great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So this is Cameron Sabat from Cutting to the Case signing off.